I lost my hearing fairly suddenly.
I began losing my hearing when I was about 35 years old. Having trouble on the phone probably started about 15 years ago.
I dreaded for the phone to ring.
It was very hard for me to understand sometimes.
Most of the time, it would be, huh? I'm sorry, what was that?
I would get little bits here and there of conversation, but I just didn't feel confident that I was fully understanding what I was trying to hear on the phone.
The telephone was just a useless tool.
The phone, I've not had a very good relationship.
And it got to the point where my children got frustrated with me on the phone and would not communicate. It kind of just became impossible. I knew something had to change.
When I got my captor, it just changed my world completely.
Everyone was amazed. I was amazed.
It was a miracle to me.
With the captel, I don't have that hesitation.
I just love knowing that I have something there and that I don't have to be scared or anxious, and it allows me to be independent.
And now I can understand them because I can see it as I'm talking on the phone. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it now.
To hear their voice, to know I'm not missing anything, to realize that, now I'm not just, seeing a few words here and there, I'm filling in the gaps.
The first time I tried the Captel phone, I called my mother, and I could hear her voice.
She realized that I wasn't saying, huh? Or hang on, slow down, wait a minute.
And he was, this is correct? Yeah, it is. And we talked for about an hour, and he was just amazed that I could actually hear him.
And she said, what happened? And I said, Captel.
If I'm to talk on the telephone, it's captel. I guess I've had it long enough now, it just seems to be part of me.
It's my lifeline. It's my connection to the world.
It's the only time in my life the phone rang. I said, I get it.
Y'all have changed my world. You just don't know. You really have.
In my book, it's perfect.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our third day of the Pflugerville Seniors Conference. My name is Rob Fabian, and I am the Director of Marketing and Communications at Age of Central Texas. We are a regional nonprofit organization that serves older adults and family caregivers with programs, resources, and education, just like today's presentation. So we are so glad that you're here. We partner every year with the Pflugerville Community Church, and this is our 6th year to bring you the Pflugerville Seniors Conference. We are so glad that you're here. We've got a couple of things we want to talk about before we get started with our presentation. Number one, we are recording today's presentation and we're going to be posting it on YouTube a little bit later. So if for any reason you get knocked off today, don't worry. You're going to be able to have that link and be able to watch the entire presentation later. You'll also be able to share that with friends and family because we got some amazing information for today. We also sent you the PDF of the program, and we hope that you have a chance to take a look at that. Not only does it have great information about all of our sponsors, like CapTel, that you just saw their video. They're our presenting sponsor for this week. There's also information about all of our presenters, and we also included a lot of great resources for you in that program. So be sure and take a look at that. At the end of the sessions, at the end of this week, we're going to send you a very brief survey link. And we hope that you'll take just a couple of moments and complete that survey. It'll only take just a couple of minutes. But the survey is really important because it helps us to improve for next year's conference. Specifically, we're going to ask you what are some of the topics that you need in your journey so we can go find those experts and bring you those topics next time. So we hope you'll take a moment to fill out that survey when you get that link. And then finally, during our presentation today, we want you to ask questions because this is your opportunity. This is why we do these presentations. It's for you so that you have a chance to interact with these experts, ask your questions, and get them answered. So right down here on your window screen, you have a chat feature. Looks like a thought bubble like you see in the comic strips. When you click on that, it'll open up the chat feature on the side and you can type in your questions. So during today's presentation from Dr. Carlson, be sure and ask your questions because when he is finished with his presentation, we're going to answer your questions. Now, we promised that we were going to end today at 11:30, and we're going to hold to that because we want to be cognizant of your time. So if for some reason we don't get to every question, don't worry. We're still going to answer your question. We will send you a direct email and we'll answer your question for you personally. So please be sure to ask those questions because this is your opportunity to have the expert answer them for you. All right, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Mark Carlson. He is the founder of BeWell MD. It's a concierge service here in Central Texas serving older adults. He is a fellowship-trained, board-certified geriatrician, internist, and oncologist. He has more than 25 years of healthcare experience. Dr. Carlson received his medical doctorate from Loma Linda University in California and completed his geriatric medicine fellowship at the University of Hawaii in Honolulu. And before he started practicing in geriatrics, he spent nearly 20 years working in medical oncology. So he dealt with a lot of patients who had severe illnesses. And that helped him learn a lot about compassion for end of life. He was able to combine that learning with the geriatrics training, put those together, and created BeWell MD. And it is a really wonderful resource here in the community because it incorporates not only high quality medical care with individual attention that you get from concierge service. And Dr. Carlson says that his mission is to help older adults live healthier and happier lives. And that's why we're here today, because we're going to talk about how to age successfully. There have been a lot of stories recently about blue zones all around the world and how older adults are living longer in particular parts of the world. So that's what we're going to talk about today, lessons that we have learned in that research. So Dr. Carlson, I thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of, I know, your very busy schedule to share this information. I am going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here. I've worked with Rob and the others at Age of Central Texas for many years now, and always find it a pleasure. And we thank you for the good service you do for the elders in our community. Anyway, I'll share my screen. I think I got a little out of place here. Rob, are you seeing the presentation screen?
I am, and it looks like we're on the slide. There's the first slide. You're perfect.
Okay, great. When technology works, it is fabulous. Now, before I get into the 9 steps to successful aging, let me just share a little bit of perspective. As I was watching the introduction from CapTel, it made me realize that there's never been a better time to be alive. And I know that in the midst of a pandemic, it might be hard to keep that perspective, but it is absolutely true. And there is one more resource that I don't have written down or on the screen, but I'm going to share it with you by just by introduction. And it's a website called Human Progress. And I would invite all of you to look up their website, because it points out the progress that the world at large is making. And in a time of pandemic and with all the trouble that we see, I think it gives a very nice perspective about the advances. And the CapTel video made me realize that as my hearing is diminishing, I have got resources that my mom and dad and my grandparents didn't have available to them. And all of us have these resources available to us. So again, despite the pandemic and any other troubles that we see and hear about, it's never been a better time to be alive than now. And I want to share with you the 9 steps to successful aging, these lessons from the Blue Zones. And I hope that many of you have heard about the Blue Zones, but if you haven't, I'm going to give you an introduction and then a personal perspective from it, as well as a medical one. So the Blue Zones, the history, this is a man by the name of Dan Buettner, and he's an explorer from National Geographic. Dan and his team headed up a longevity project known as the Blue Zones. And the name is kind of interesting. What they did is they looked around the world and tried to identify locations where there were high numbers of centenarians. And those locations included Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, Icaria, Greece, Loma Linda, California, and Nicoya, Costa Rica. The way they named the Blue Zones is they put the map on the table, they circled the Blue Zones with a blue Sharpie, and thus the name Blue Zones became known. Now, they published their first article in National Geographic back in 2004, and then subsequently they've had multiple additions to the original project, and there are Blue Zones. There are Blue Zone projects throughout the United States, and there is the beach cities in California. I believe Hawaii has a Blue Zones project. Albert Lee, Minnesota was the original one. And so the Buettner and his team, they work with communities around the country trying to take the principles, the lessons that we learn from these centenarians in the Blue Zones and apply it to city life or urban life in a way to try to maximize these lessons and help as many of us as possible benefit from them. Now, we'll get on to my story, and of course, that's my favorite topic, but that's just the narcissism of a physician. A friend of mine, when she heard my story, she told me, "Mark, you're trading your health for your wealth." And she was absolutely right. Back in, that's my embarrassing Buddha phase picture. That was me as a young doctor with my two oldest children, James and Alex. And that embarrassing picture showed me not at the height, but on my way to a very unhealthy lifestyle. I worked too much, I didn't exercise, didn't eat right, and it led to problems. Now, this is a picture of me in March of 2008, and I'm on spring break with my family. And this is off the coast of Miami, me fishing with my kids. And we had a lot of fun, a lot of success. 1 month later, or excuse me, or no, exactly. 1 month after that first picture was taken, I was in a hospital having a stroke. And the good news is that I was able to recover from that stroke and adopt a better lifestyle and still have some fun. So the picture on the right is of me and Alex, my second oldest, and he was the one sitting on my lap in the pool back in the Buddha phase. And Alex and I, this was from 2 years ago when we went back to Hawaii for a vacation, and I was able to hike up onto this pinnacle. I think it was about 1,000-foot gain in the hike, and I was proud that I was still able to do that. Now, the reason I was able to have that fun with Alex is because of the 9 lessons in the Blue Zones. And I wasn't able to do or incorporate these lessons properly when I was a younger man. And after I had my stroke, I realized that I had to make a change, or more accurately, my wife realized that I had to make a change. And she insisted that I take care of myself. And so these are the 9 lessons, and I'm just going to go through them quickly to let you know a little bit about how I've incorporated these lessons. And maybe I can inspire each of you to look at these lessons and find a lesson that you might help make your life a little better. So the first one, and I think one of the most important, they're all important, but this one especially, is moving naturally. Here in America and in the developed world, we have the advantages of the automobile, technology, Zoom, for instance. We can do all of our work from a desk or a couch or our beds even now. And it takes away the natural movement that the centenarians and the Blue Zones incorporate. Learning how to move naturally is one of the ways that I have made myself a little bit healthier, and it has helped allow me to be here today with you. So the centenarians in the Blue Zones, they rarely or never go to the gym. They don't have 24-hour fitness typically, or Planet Fitness or Gold's Gym. They don't lift weights. What they do is things like gardening and walking, riding their bicycles. And moving naturally is absolutely one of those things that medical science has known for a long time is important. And we've got lots of studies, the one from Dr. Jansen, the one from Dr. Moore, and Dr. Martin. These are just the tiny tip of the iceberg of the data that we have available, telling us and teaching us that by moving and staying active, we can prolong our health span and our lifespan. And it is absolutely one of the truths that we've got to keep moving. And as a geriatrician, I use the phrase often, movement is medicine. If you can move, if you can keep yourself active, you're going to avoid having to see guys like me more often. And I know that's a blessing. Now, another lesson is purpose. And I've got a couple pictures here of my wife, and this is when we visited my alma mater. This is Loma Linda, California. And you may remember on the first or second slide that Loma Linda is one of the blue zones. In fact, it's the only blue zone in America. And Loma Linda University is located in Loma Linda, California. And the centenarians here in Loma Linda have been a big part of my life ever since medical school. I graduated med school in '91, and this was at my 25th medical school reunion, if I remember correctly. And here I am with my wife in front of the old hospital towers. And if we took this picture today, you would see a giant, brand new, gleaming hospital that they've invested about $1 billion in. And my daughter, who you'll meet in a slide or two, Michaela, she is a sophomore at Loma Linda, and I'm very, very proud of that. In fact, here she is sitting next to her brother, James. So these are the grown-up versions of James and Alex and Michaela. And then my other children, Olivia, Kaylee, Addison, and Lacey. And these 7, along with my wife, give me a lot of purpose. And I also have the purpose of my medical practice and my geriatric practice. BeWell MD is the professional purpose in my life. And all of these different entities, my wife, my children, BeWell MD, they give me a lot of purpose. And we know from the centenarians in the blue zone, all of them, without exception, held a lot of purpose. And we know also clinically that purpose is very important. Dr. Cohen and his colleagues published this study, Purpose in Life and Its Relationship to All-Cause Mortality and Cardiovascular Events, and Purpose in Life as a Predictor of Mortality Across Adulthood by Dr. Hill. These studies point out how important it is to have purpose. And we've learned that lack of purpose is every bit as damaging and harmful to us as having a bad chronic illness like diabetes mellitus, rheumatoid arthritis, or hypertension. And so having a purpose is something that I encourage all of you to find. Most of you probably already have a reason to get out of bed, or what the Nicoyans call plan de vida. But if you don't have that reason to get up every morning, find one. I know you can do it, and it will add not only longevity, but it also improve your health span. It'll allow you to improve your quality of life. Now, this next lesson is downshifting. And I think this was one that I really struggled with prior to my little accident 13 years ago. And this is a picture overlooking Lake Travis. And it is one of the ways that I try to relax, and that is by getting on the water or next to the water. I enjoy boating of all different types, and visiting the lakes, the oceans, the rivers, etc. We've got multiple clinical facts that let us know how important it is to de-stress. We know that stress promotes disease now through inflammation. 25 years or almost 30 years ago, when I graduated medical school, we didn't understand exactly how stress creates disease. We know much more now than we did then. And we know that through inflammation promoted by cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, C-reactive protein, IL-6, and other inflammatory markers and inflammatory proteins, that chronic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, stroke, etc., are definitely increased. And so by finding a way to relax, finding a way to de-stress like the centenarians and the blue zones do is very important to help prevent many of these illnesses from occurring. Now, the next lesson from the blue zones is the 80% rule. And basically, this rule is learned primarily from the Okinawans, but all of the centenarians in the blue zones adhered to some version of it. The Okinawans rarely, if ever, would clean their plate. They would always leave some food on their plate, and that was a signal to the host that they were finished. And so if you cleaned your plate in Okinawa, the host would fill it back up. So if you keep eating, you're going to get more food. And that is certainly a problem here in a wealthy Western country where we have rich, wonderful food that is tasty and easy to eat and easy to overeat. And so by pushing back a little bit from the table before you're full, i.e. when you're only 80% full, is an important concept that I had to learn. In my pre-stroke days, you would never find a dessert plate that looked like this in front of me. And finding a way to avoid those last calories is an important aspect of maintaining your weight and maintaining your health. We know clinically that there is a very real brain-gut connection. We know a lot about that. The brain-gut connection is mediated by a couple of hormones called cholecystokinin and leptin, and there's more to it than just that. But it is absolutely true that we fill up our stomachs before our brain recognizes it. The stomach fills, and typically there's a 15 to 20-minute lag between your stomach being full and your brain recognizes it. And that's part of the explanation for after a feast like at Thanksgiving, everybody's sitting around unbuckling their belt and complaining about overeating. And if the brain was a little bit faster in recognizing how full the stomach was, it wouldn't allow us to eat the second or third piece of pumpkin pie. Now, another lesson is the plant slant. This is the type of food that the centenarians in the blue zones typically eat. It's plant-based. The centenarians in Loma Linda, California were oftentimes vegan or vegetarian, but they were the exceptions. In the other four blue zones, there was very few that were truly vegan or vegetarian. They would consume some animal products, eggs, dairy products, fish, meat, pork, etc. But they would consume those animal products in a much lower proportion as compared to Americans and as compared to what I used to eat. A typical meal for me at my worst was driving through McDonald's drive-through on the way to the hospital or back to the clinic and eating a couple of Big Macs. And that landed me in bad trouble. And so my wife, she knew how to eat healthfully. And she taught me the importance of these fruits and vegetables. And so I call myself now a flexitarian. I'll eat almost anything. I don't believe that you have to be a vegan or a vegetarian. I think that we just need to find a proper balance in terms of the quantity or the percentage of your diet that you're consuming from a plant source as compared to an animal source. And included in the plant or in the animal source, I would include things like processed foods, the highly processed sugars and packaged foods, the soda pops that we so often consume. We need to minimize that and maximize the plant-based products. And I think with that, we can incorporate this rule and definitely improve our overall health and avoid many of those diseases which are associated with the Western culture, Western diet. Of course, medicine has demonstrated that a plant-based diet reduces the risk of many diseases like colon cancer, heart disease, obesity, diabetes. It is without a doubt that if you can maximize the plant basis of your diet, you will improve your overall health. You'll lengthen your lifespan and you'll lengthen your health span. I credit my wife for teaching me how to eat more properly. And that I think has done more for my overall health than any of the other lessons, but they're all important. Oh, dementia, I forgot to mention that. We all want to hang on to our brain. I recently learned of Bill Gates' biggest fear. Of course, we all know Bill Gates, and he is a genius. And his biggest fear is losing his mental capacity. And that is a fear that I encounter regularly in the geriatric population which I serve. And we know pretty conclusively that a plant-based diet can help prolong your intellectual capacity. Now, here's one of the favorites. Wine at 5 is one of the lessons that we learned from the Blue Zones. And typically the centenarians in the Blue Zones would enjoy wine in the evening with a meal surrounded by friends and family. And that is absolutely the best way to enjoy a glass of wine. And red wine is probably the form of wine that is best. And I think that, well, let me go through the benefits real quick. The wine and the red wines especially have antithrombotic effects on HDL cholesterol, antioxidant effects. It improves insulin sensitivity and reduces inflammation. So if you want to enjoy wine at 5, I encourage you to do so, and do so with friends and family. This is one of those lessons that one has to be careful with. If you're 70 years old and you've never enjoyed alcohol or wine, maybe this is one that you should check with your doctor before you start. Just make sure that it's not going to interfere with any of your medicines. And most people are going to be able to enjoy wine responsibly and effectively. I oftentimes get approached about the quantity that is appropriate. For men, I recommend 2 glasses or less per day, and for women, a glass or a glass and a half a day. And it is, oh, excuse me. And it is, sorry for the interruption. It is something that you cannot save up and enjoy all of that on a Saturday night. It has to be moderation. Let me see here. There was one more point that I wanted to make about the wine, and I've lost it. So go to the Blue Zones website, and I'm sure they'll give you lots more information about wine at 5. Let me see here. The next lesson is belonging. And basically, the centenarians in the Blue Zones, almost all of them, I think it was like, they only found 4 centenarians out of all of those that they interviewed who didn't actively belong to some faith-based organization. And it doesn't matter if it's Christian, Jewish, Islamic, Buddhist, as long as you belonged, that was the commonality. The specific faith did not appear to have any relationship. So if you're not part of a church or a faith-based organization, I'd encourage you to seek one out. There are benefits that, again, we are learning about this faith in a higher power. We don't totally understand it, but there is something to believing that there's something greater than ourselves. And medical science is catching up with the centenarians and the blue zones. The Lancet now has an entire section of this esteemed medical journal devoted entirely to investigating the connection between health, longevity, and faith. And we see publications related to this regularly now. Another lesson is putting loved ones first. And I think this is common sense. Again, here's me with my wife and 7 children from, I think this was about 4 years ago. And here's another favorite picture of mine. This was from summer of 2019, me surrounded by about 30 to 35 of my favorite in-laws. And we get together very regularly. In fact, I'll be visiting this same group in Kentucky at a lake come middle of July. We get together regularly to enjoy each other on vacation, on summer vacation, typically on the water like you see here. And it is something that is absolutely vital based upon not only the centenarians and the blue zones, but also the clinical science that we are seeing. Medicine has demonstrated very conclusively that we can, that there is a connection between these family and loved ones and helping preserve our longevity and our health span. Here is a note about marriage being an independent factor for living long and living well. And then I think the last lesson is the right tribe. And not only is it important for us to maintain our family love connections, it's important to circle ourselves with friends and neighbors who also contribute to our lifespan and our health span. This is a picture of me again at that 25th medical school reunion. You'll see here a part of my tribe that even though we are geographically separate, we get together very regularly. This is my good friends, Tim and Sylvia Beamsdorfer. Tim and Sylvia and their children, and Gwenda and me and our children. About 2 months ago, we all met at Avila Beach in California. I should put an updated picture on here to show the fun we had there. But we rented a house and we all spent a few days together on the beach. And that was a really great experience that I'll have forever. And these guys I can count on. If I had trouble today and I called Art or Jennifer, Sylvia or Tim, I know that I could reach out to them and they would lend a hand. And I would do the same for them. You make these connections, and having the right tribe, the right circle of friends and neighbors around you is vital. And I think most of you can relate to that. But if you don't have those connections, especially during a pandemic, that may be the case, or if you've recently moved, maybe now's the time to bake a pie or get a plate of cookies or something nice for your neighbor, go next door and just introduce yourself and make the connection. These connections that last a lifetime, like the ones that you see here, are important, but we can always make more connections. And having a good neighbor that you're willing to help and that's willing to help you is vital, especially as we get older. Now, the Blue Zones, again, I encourage you to look up their website. They have just a wealth of information that that I endorse entirely, and I think you can really learn a lot by looking into the Blue Zones. And here's their website address. Oops, sorry, I'm too quick with the button. Oh, and then I ended. Hold on one second. I'll get that way. Oh, there it is. No, here it is. So Rob, are you seeing the Blue Zones website?
No, we're just seeing you right now.
Okay, hold on one second. I'll try to fix this.
I think you'll need to share your screen again.
Yeah, okay. Hold on one second. There we go.
Yes.
So there's the Blue Zones website that you can jot down, but I suspect you can get all of this information online just by searching Blue Zones. And then here is our number and our website. We'd love for you to visit. And I think I will end it at that. Rob may have a few questions, and I don't know what the time is. Let me check here real quick.
So yes, we are doing well on our time. And
Perfect.
if you don't mind, if you will stop sharing your screen, awesome. I'm going to show a very quick video from our friends over at the Pflugerville Community Church, because a lot about what you're talking about is what you can find over at the church. They have a wonderful program that is specific for older adults. It's called their HealthNuts program. And it is a really wonderful opportunity for older adults to be able to get together and to share their time together and to do a little bit of working out. So let me share the screen. That's not the right one. That is the right one.
We're excited to tell you about the Pflugerville Community Church 50+ ministry. We call ourselves the PCC HealthNuts. We're a group of seniors caring for seniors by promoting healthy minds, bodies, and spirits. This is our 9th year and we're still going strong. All of our classes are free and directed towards seniors, but all ages are welcome. Membership at PCC is not a requirement to participate in any of our classes or events. Our primary goal is helping seniors stay fit and healthy. To accomplish this, we offer online and in-person fitness classes daily. Our classes for core strength and cardio are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On Tuesday and Thursday, we concentrate on breathing, balancing, and stretching. Although the exercises are designed for seniors, they will enhance your ability to stay healthy and active no matter your age. All of our exercises can be modified for our wheelchair or sedentary participants. Recently, we've also added line dancing. Line dancing not only keeps your body moving, it also keeps your mind sharp by learning and remembering the new dance moves. With the expansion of Zoom and YouTube, viewership is endless. Anyone with a computer, iPad, or a cell phone can participate. If computers are challenging for you, a member of our leadership team can help you get it all set up. Just ask. In addition to the exercise classes and line dancing, we have other classes and events. One of the most popular events is our healthy cooking segment. Once a month, a member of our group demonstrates healthy cooking techniques. We call these interesting sessions Wellness Wednesdays. In addition to cooking, we offer timely and informative topics that concern all seniors. Recent topics have included 31 Days to Better Health, area chiropractic services, and ancestry searches. We have several exciting topics scheduled that you won't want to miss. In addition, computer classes for seniors and senior game day at the church are starting soon. If you can't join us at the scheduled class times, you can always find us on YouTube at PCC HealthNuts. Let me urge you to check us out. You'll get some great exercise, meet some fantastic people, and have fun along the way. Please contact our leader, Steve Morrison, at the church office, or send him an email at the address shown on your screen for additional information. May God bless you and your family. We hope to see you soon.
All right. And as Steve mentioned, those are services that are available free to anybody in the community. You don't have to be a member of the church. So hope that you will check that out. If you look in your program, there's also information specifically about the PCC HealthNuts. And so that's another reason to go check on your program. Dr. Carlson, we got a couple of questions here. So let's kind of unpack a little bit some of the things that you talked about this morning. We talked about moving naturally, and as opposed to going to the gym, having to work out, all of that, to do the things that we enjoy, like you mentioned, gardening, going for walks, those types of things. How much of that type of activity should we try to incorporate into our day in order to get the best benefits?
Well, the more the better for most of us, because most of us don't do enough. If you're one that is going to the gym or jogging or walking, and you're doing that 3 or 4 hours a day, that's probably enough and you don't have to worry about it. But rarely is that the case. Most of us are spending too much time sitting or laying down. Practically speaking, I try to get in my 10,000 steps. And that might be a good benchmark for those amongst us to utilize. Now, 10,000 may be a little much for some, especially if you're 75 or 80 years old and you haven't been walking. Don't start out trying to do 10,000 steps a day. Perhaps set your mark at 4,000, 5,000, and then over a period of many weeks, gradually build up. If you're sedentary right now, get involved with a fitness trainer, and they are available almost anywhere, and they can help you determine what the right level of activity is for your level of health or lack thereof. And so I'll give you a few examples of how I try to increase movement naturally. So for instance, I've got a stand-up desk in my office, and I use that oftentimes. It's a treadmill with a desk attached to it. And in fact, that presentation that you just saw was created originally at my stand-up desk. And walking is probably the best activity. Yesterday, when I was going around Greater Austin, seeing members in my practice, I do a house call practice. My assistant would typically goes in and gets vital signs and gets set up for me before I join the visit. And so if I'm in a community like Lakeline Oaks or Provident Crossing in Cedar Park or Round Rock, respectively, I will, while she's getting set up, I'll walk the hallways. It's a great opportunity to greet a few elders and get a few extra steps in. And when I'm going to the store and I'm driving, I will oftentimes not try to find a close parking spot, but find the back of the parking lot where I can get an extra few hundred steps just going back in and out of HEB. Or even better, if I've got the time, I will walk to the HEB. My apartment that I live at is about, I don't know, 0.6 miles, if I remember correctly, from my closest HEB. And it's very common that I will walk rather than drive to the HEB. So those are just a few practical tips that I use. And then gardening and shopping, like I mentioned. Using the stairs, of course, is a common one that everybody does, or everybody mentions or knows of. And in terms of judging how much you should do, I think you got to listen to your body. So if you do so much one day that the next day you're too tired, too sore, too whatever to do it again, then you probably overdid it and you need to back off a little bit. Usually that's not the case, though. Usually we suffer from not doing enough rather than too much. But of course, we can all overdo it. So be careful, especially for those elders in the audience.
So basically, listen to your body, and your body will tell you when you've gone a little too far.
Exactly. Yes.
And of course, we know that movement is also imperative for helping with fall prevention, because if we're moving, our balance is better, and then we're less likely to have a fall. And as we know, falls are the #1 cause of death for older adults in the United States. And so that's another reason to get up and get moving, because that'll help you with your balance and help with fall prevention as well.
Absolutely. And just on that point, Rob, a week does not go by that I don't deal with a fall of some sort. And I've only got a small medical practice. Falls are, yes, the number one risk of injuries and death, or not of death, but of injuries in the elderly population.
Yeah, and we know a lot of times that a fall also comes with other issues that it brings with it. So it's something we definitely want to avoid. I believe it was on Monday, someone shared with us when we were talking about activity, that one of the things that she does is whenever she puts something in the microwave, she'll walk around the kitchen island while the microwave is counting down. And instead of just standing there staring at the microwave, she'll just walk around in the kitchen and get some steps in. So, being creative like that is a great way of adding to your steps. If you're doing laundry, instead of taking it all in one load, break it up into 3 or 4. Then you have to go back and forth to get them, but there you're getting your steps in again.
Exactly. Those are excellent tips. I like those.
Had a question about, we were talking about plant-based meals, and there's been a lot written and a lot of stories about the Mediterranean diet, about the health values to that, and of course it is a primarily plant-based diet as well. For folks like us who here in Texas, we like our beef, we like our meat, and that's what we were raised on, is eating that. How can we make that shift from the heavy meat-based diet that we are used to shifting over to more of a plant-based diet? And how much should we have of plant versus the meat? What should our goal be that we're aiming toward?
I do not believe that we have a perfect answer to that question. It is a good one. And my suspicion is that there are multiple different ways to get there. I'll just share with you the way I did it. So after my stroke, even though before my stroke, as a physician and as somebody who knew the Loma Linda lifestyle, the Blue Zones lifestyle since I was a kid, I was not able to incorporate that. The McDonald's, the Burger Kings, the Taco Bells, that was too powerful for me. And I love that. And in some respects, I still do. A bean burrito at Taco Bell is my go-to now if I'm trying to find something reasonably healthy fast. And that's still not the best option. But it does have beans and it doesn't have a lot of animal products in it. So the way I did it was by having a life-threatening event, and then my wife telling me, we tried it your way, now we're going to do it my way. And I thought it was a joke, but I don't, in looking back on it, she was quite serious. And so I did it in a very bad way. And then after that, I sat down and I agreed with her. And then she started putting meals in front of me that were basically vegetarian or vegan. And I hated it at first. And everybody told me, not everybody, but many who were experts, the dietitians and the people who were good at plant-based diets, they told me, just be patient with it, Mark. If you learn how to eat this way, your taste buds will change and you'll learn to enjoy a plant-based diet. And I didn't believe them. But because of my circumstance, I just bit my tongue and I just did it. And it was hard. And with time, and the time factor was about a month, my taste buds absolutely did change, and I enjoy a meal of beans and vegetables. And beans, I got to make note of that. Beans are a great way to incorporate and move toward that plant-based diet, because they're high in fiber, they're high in protein, and there's a vast variety of them, and you can find many, many different ways to prepare them that are healthy and tasty.
And plus, beans also have the same texture for a lot of meats as well. So you're getting that emotional feel as well. And
yes.
Yeah, there's a reason why Big Macs taste so good. They spent billions of dollars making them taste amazing so that you will crave them.
Yes.
But we know that they're not the healthiest thing in the world. I love chicken fried steak, and I think all of us do, but we know that's not the best thing in the world for us to eat. But you're right about taste buds. It made me think about the fact that when we're younger, there's a lot of things that we don't like. We don't like the way they taste. But as we've gotten older, there are things that we enjoy. I mean, how many of us as kids would eat sushi? But, that's something that as adults, a lot of us really like. So
Yes.
Your taste buds will adapt to your needs. Is it okay, though, to have like a cheat day? For a lot of bodybuilders, they talk about, okay, I'm going to eat all my healthy and lean stuff, and then Sunday is my cheat day, and that's when I'm going to eat a burger and a piece of cake and that. Is that acceptable? So that, if we're just craving that chicken fried steak, we know I can eat one on Sunday. That's my cheat day.
And I don't know that we have an absolute answer to that question either. My suspicion is that many of us can do that kind of a schedule and incorporate that effectively. But there may be some who can't, meaning when you have that cheat day, then that is the first day of failure, and it leads to 2, 3, 4 days in a row. And so some will find it a lot easier to just stay on the more rigid regimen and not torture yourself with that piece of pie and Big Mac on Sunday, because then on Monday it's going to be a temptation that you can't resist. And so for me personally, I fall into the latter camp, meaning when I'm on my diet properly, the way it's supposed to be, I find it easier to just not have a cheat day, because once I have that cheat day, things go downhill rapidly.
Mm-hmm. And of course, moderation is the key there as well.
The 80% rule.
Exactly. You talk about the 80% rule. If you just got to have that Big Mac, eat half of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Excellent. Yeah. And that's a good point. When you're in our lifestyle, we can't always be at home where there's a nice plant-based meal prepared for us in the proper way. And so when you go to the out and you're forced to eat in a way that isn't proper, you can do exactly that. Portion control. And then most restaurants now are offering healthy versions. Even McDonald's, you can get a salad. And if you don't combine that with a Big Mac or two and the French fries, that salad can be reasonably nutritionally beneficial and help you keep you on your plan.
Right. Even a lot of the fast food places like McDonald's, Whataburger, you can get a grilled chicken, which is going to be much better for you than anything of the fried items. And you can substitute your fries for a salad. And
Yes.
so there are still ways that you can still feel like you're cheating and getting, my fast food fix, but you can do it in a way that's much healthier for you.
Yes.
And we talked about moderation, especially with when we're talking about having wine, the wine at 5. We've read and seen a lot of stories about how wine is good for you. We've also seen a lot of things about coffee, how there's a lot of mixed signals there. Is coffee good for you? Is it not good for you? What's kind of the prevailing thought when it comes to having coffee?
It's interesting. Coffee has a rich and long story, and it is the most consumed beverage around the world. The science behind coffee is pretty clear, and it is overall beneficial. There is a small cohort amongst us, and we know this from the studies, that are intolerant of coffee, meaning the caffeine in coffee is too much of a stimulant and it causes arrhythmias in the heart. But if you are not in that small group made up of about 5 to 10% of the population and can tolerate coffee and caffeine, I am a big proponent of it. The data shows that if you're tolerant of coffee, the more you drink, the longer you live. And that data is very strong, and I recommend coffee to anybody who enjoys it, and it's a great stimulant. I consume probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 6+ cups of coffee a day, and that may not be for everybody. You have to be careful regarding your heart rate. If you notice that your tachycardic, racing heart, or irregular heartbeat associated with your coffee, that is something to make your doctor aware of and bring to his or her attention. And then finally, you just want to make sure that you don't drink it too late in the evening, and make sure that it doesn't disrupt your sleep.
Right. Is tea any better than coffee, as for folks who just coffee tends to upset their stomach?
Yeah, and I don't have any comparative data between coffee and tea to quote you, but tea in that situation is probably has similar benefits, and the benefits we think comes from the caffeine. Caffeine is a weak diuretic, a chemical that gets rid of water through your urine. And there are multiple medicines that we use, diuretics, that have benefits in terms of blood pressure, helping control heart failure, etc. And we think that the health benefits that are associated with coffee and coffee drinkers is related to the caffeine. And so that is what we believe is the mechanism of action. So if you're getting it through tea, you're probably getting a similar benefit.
Okay, excellent. With the recent pandemic, we had to physically isolate for quite a while, especially for those of us that are older and we're at higher risk for being exposed to the COVID-19 virus. Now, we hopefully have all had our vaccines, and that we have some level of protection there. And we're starting to re-engage with a lot of our family and our friends. Where we are now, how safely should we be doing that? And what are we starting to see for like the summer and the fall, so we can start planning for when we can start building our tribe again?
Yeah, good questions. And I don't want to step in it, so I'm going to be very cautious with my words. I personally believe that we have many, many more lessons to learn about this pandemic and the way that we've dealt with it. I think that we will likely, over the next 2 or 3 years, realize that there were many unintended consequences of isolating, and that the elder population, unfortunately, bore the brunt of it. Maybe not all of it, but I can't tell you how sad it was for me to walk by one of the elder living communities. My wife and I, we walk regularly together. And at this particular community, we would often see a gentleman standing outside the building next to a window. And I can only assume that his wife was on the other side of that window. And I probably saw him there half a dozen times over the last 4 or 5 months. And I'm just thinking how sad it is that him and his wife are conducting their relationship through a window. And we are going to learn these lessons. So now, getting back to the question of how do we safely do this? In my opinion, if you are vaccinated or are a COVID-19 survivor, i.e. you had the disease and recovered, or both, I think that it is very safe and reasonable for you to resume essentially normal activities. Invite your family in, invite your friends, start socializing again. Socialization is so important, and social isolation, we know, is a big problem in the elder community. Now, what I'm recommending is contrary to the public health dictums. And so I've got to be very careful about this. Everybody has to consider their own risks, their own health status, and determine what's right for them.
Yeah, I know we're seeing a lot of reports saying that as long as everyone in the room has been vaccinated, then that tends to be a fairly safe option. I think we're going to be seeing from the CDC soon some new guidelines when it comes to wearing masks. But you're right, the isolation issue, even before the pandemic, was a huge issue for older adults. I believe the statistic from the CDC was that isolation was the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes per day in what it would do physically to your body.
Yeah, think about that.
How it would damage your body, not just, your spirit and your emotional, but physically would, take you down, so that it caused premature death in older adults. And so, we always here at Age of Central Texas talk about the big three, eat well, stay physically active, move, and socialize, stay socially active. And I think all of the 9 points that you pointed out all fit within those categories in some place. So I know it's a big concern for a lot of people wanting to be able to get back together with their friends, with their family, with the grandkids they haven't seen for a year. And so, but there's also that fear because, COVID is nothing to sneeze at. It's something that is very dangerous, especially as we age, because we have so many other factors that go with aging that could affect us, that it's kind of a domino effect. We
Yes.
talk about how the fall, it's not necessarily the fall, it's everything else that it affects that causes the injury and the death. The COVID is the same way. It's not necessarily the virus that's going to get you, it's what it causes in your body of everything else that happens. So people are very nervous about it. But I thank you for that, you know, you have to make your own judgment on it. But for the most part, what we're hearing and seeing from the CDC is, as long as you're all vaccinated and you feel safe with all of your neighbors, go for it. You know, we all need that human interaction.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has gotten into a motor vehicle in the last week or month or year, but there is substantial risk associated with that. And that risk benefit analysis that is hard to do regarding use of a motor vehicle, but also regarding your socialization and the things surrounding COVID-19 are really challenging. And so if you do have uncertainty about it, hopefully your own physician would be able to guide you and help you make that risk benefit analysis properly for you.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. You know, your physician has your best welfare in mind. So always have those conversations with your physician.
Yeah.
Had a question about solo agers. You know, here in Central Texas, we have a larger than normal population of older adults who are aging alone because with the 80s and 90s, we had the big population boom of people moving here for their jobs because we had all of the tech opportunities. People left their homes in other states and their families, moved here. Now the kids have graduated, they're gone, the spouse has passed away, and they're by themselves. They don't have their family around them. They don't have their tribe. And so they are aging by themselves. What are some tips for them that they can apply some of these blue zone ideas, but also to help? Primarily, I think the big question is, how do I create my tribe?
Yeah, ideally the tribe is one that extends back to your earlier years, but with our mobile society as it is, that can be really difficult. Number one, I would recommend for anybody, learn how to use the technology, learn how to use the mobile platforms that we've got available to us. The technology can really help us maintain connections. And I just point to the platform that we're on right now, Zoom. I've been using Zoom probably for 4 years now. And so I was ready when the pandemic came around to just expand my use of Zoom. And it has helped me stay connected with my patients, with my group of friends, with my family. And it's just one example of the technology that you can utilize to maintain your connections. What I mentioned before, make some sort of a treat and go meet your neighbors. I know I'm guilty of this. I live in an apartment, and I know very few of my neighbors. Reaching out to them with a nice gift, a nice greeting, that might be a good way to make a connection. And those neighbors can be so vital and important because of proximity. We all know how important it is to have somebody close by, and having a trusted neighbor, a friend next door who you can help and they can help you is probably another important strategy that you might want to incorporate.
And, you know, as you said, look for those opportunities to socialize. I know a lot of the rec centers are reopening now. And so there are opportunities to get together with peers, with other older adults. Meals on Wheels is starting back with all the congregate meals at all of the centers around Central Texas. And so those are relaunching. So, you know, that's an opportunity to go share a meal with someone. If you're a person of faith, definitely being able to attend church, whether it's virtually or in person. That's another way of being able to connect and to kind of feed your soul.
Yeah,
but
PCC, my suspicion is already doing many of those things. And so we're sort of preaching to the choir. This is probably the group that is already doing all of those things. So look around your circle and look for the individual who isn't engaged in the way that you are, and invite them to the next PCC event. Invite them to a meal. And I know for many, that kind of activity, if you haven't done that, if it's not part of your personality, it feels awkward in the beginning. But you know what? Most, if not all, individuals, they respond very favorably to a kind hand reaching out in engagement. And so don't be afraid. And if you do find an unwelcoming response, maybe that is just the individual that you need to repeatedly smile at, repeatedly approach, because that individual may be the one that is in most need of that kind, helping friend, neighbor.
And you'll also check off one of those 9 boxes because now you have purpose.
Yes, isn't that correct? Yes.
Yeah.
And
So,
and I can almost guarantee you, if you find that individual who doesn't immediately receive your gift of kindness, and you are persistent, you will probably wear him or her down. And I suspect that you ultimately will benefit more than they will.
yeah, it's the old adage of do unto others.
Yes.
And, you never know if, reaching out that person and they go, oh, no, thank you. They actually will go home and say, hey, someone thought about me. Yeah. So you actually did a very positive there, even if they're saying, oh, no, ask them again.
Yep.
Maybe you just caught them off guard. Maybe it's something they haven't thought about that, oh, I really would love to have somebody to talk to.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, that is wonderful. We had a question. I mentioned the congregate meals starting up around Central Texas. We know that Meals on Wheels reached out to us recently and said they're going to be relaunching toward the end of this month and the beginning of next month. They'll be phasing them in at all of their locations around Central Texas. You can go to Meals on Wheels website, and I'm sure they have the information there. I know that at the Baca Center in Round Rock, they are going to be relaunching at the beginning of June. So they are reopening theirs. And I believe out in Taylor and Hutto, those are starting as well. You can always check with your local recreation center and your senior center. You can also check with the Area Agency on Aging. They help support a lot of those congregate meals through funding. And just Google Area Agency on Aging. It'll take you to their website, and they'll have information on the congregate meals that are available throughout the entire Central Texas area, because they serve, I believe it is 7 to 9 different counties in our immediate area. So that's a great place to look. Or you can also contact us here at Age of Central Texas, and we will find that information for you, because I am sure that we have got it all. So you can contact us as well. Since we have just a few minutes left, Dr. Carlson, will you tell us about your practice and about BeWell MD, because it is a very unique opportunity for healthcare for older adults here in Central Texas.
Yeah, as you mentioned in the introduction, Rob, I started my medical career as a physician practicing medical oncology, and I did that for many years. And then my stroke, which I've told you about, that sort of was the start of the change. And after I realized that the oncology was maybe part of my problem, meaning I wasn't able to find the proper work-life balance, and I needed a space to work in a different way. And so I evaluated what I liked to do, what I thought I was good at, and where I could make a difference. And that all led me to geriatrics. And so when I put together my plan, I went to Honolulu for a year to get the proper training. And Honolulu is a beautiful place to train, I guarantee. I encourage it for all of you. But after living there for a year, I realized that I want to come back to the mainland to do my practice. And so I set up BeWell MD, and I did it a little bit differently. And there's so many elements that I won't share with you, but I wanted to accent and amplify the doctor-patient relationship. I wanted that part of the relationship to be primary, and to try to get away from some of the system changes that have occurred that I don't necessarily agree with or like. And so that's why I created BeWell MD as a house call practice. And so we try to meet the elder in their home where we think the need is greatest, and go to the community rather than forcing the elder to come to us. And we do that in multiple ways, meaning I personally visit patients in their home, but I also connect with them regularly by telemedicine. And we use the telephone, we use text messaging, we use these pipelines that aren't necessarily part of the bigger system because of some of the constraints that the bigger system has. And so that's in a nutshell how I've designed BeWell MD. And again, the relationship is something, the doctor-patient relationship is primary in my mind. It is something that with the evolution of healthcare in the manner that it is going, is becoming less and less emphasized. And I'm trying to preserve it. So I guess I'm a dinosaur in that respect. So.
Well, I think that's fantastic. And, you know, being able to meet the patient at their home, you also have the opportunity to see a lot of things that may not come into the doctor's office. You get to see a lot of lifestyle issues, fall prevention opportunities, a lot of things, all these things that go into our healthy living that often aren't unpacked in the doctor's office itself.
Yes, exactly. And because of the structure of my practice, I don't have as many time constraints as the typical internist does, who might be seeing 20 or 25 patients a day, where you get 2 or 4 or 6 minutes with the doctor, and that is typically with a computer in between the doctor and the patient, and I'm able to sit with my members, and I like to get to know them. In fact, that's the joy of my job, is getting to know the elders and talk story.
And you mentioned some of the long-term care communities around the area. You have patients who are in assisted livings and memory cares. Is that correct?
Exactly. Memory care, assisted living. Most of the communities that we go to are independent or single family homes, but we go to a wide variety of facilities, including the memory cares and assisted livings.
Yeah, so I know a lot of the people who are attending the conference this year and the past years not only are aging themselves, but are also still caregiving for their aging parents.
Yes.
And so, you know, so that's a great opportunity if you're looking for that medical care for your loved one, and they may be already living in an assisted living or a memory care. Here's an opportunity for that. One person asked whether or not you take Medicare with your practice.
We work with Medicare. We are a concierge practice, and so we accept Medicare, but there is a concierge fee in addition to the Medicare.
Okay. Perfect. So if you want more information, you get in touch with Dr. Carlson. We will be sure that we're going to send you his direct contact information along with all the info that we're going to send you at the end of the conference. We'll send you the links to all of these recorded sessions so that you can share those with family and friends or go back and look at them again. We're going to share you all of the handouts and presentation materials, so you'll have those to be able to review. And remember, we're also going to send you that survey as well. Dr. Carlson, thank you so much for taking this time out today and sharing all of these wonderful suggestions, ideas, this research, your own personal story. All of this just came together in such a beautiful package that We know that trying to change our lifestyle is never something that's easy. If it was easy for everybody, we'd all do it. But it's something that you need to be mindful about. And if you put your mind to it, you can do it. It's, you know, you're living
Yes.
proof of the fact that it can be done.
Yes. And Rob, thanks to you for having me today. Thanks to Age of Central Texas and all the good work that you do. Thanks to PCC for hosting this and for their great work. And then the final thing, you mentioned the caregivers, the adult caregivers out there. I just want to give a special pat on the back to all of you and just encourage you to take care of yourself.
That's right. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of your loved one.
Yeah.
It's the old
And-
adage of put your oxygen mask on first.
Yes, and the work that you do is special and underappreciated by so many.
That's true. And it's a great way to wrap up, because that's the reason that Age of Central Texas and organizations like ours throughout Central Texas exist, is to be here to help you whenever you need that help. And there is never, ever, ever any shame in saying, I need some help, because all of us will at some point in our life. And that's why we're here. That's why Dr. Carlson is here, to help when you need that help.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to thank you so very much for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Carlson. Thank you to the Pflugerville Community Church. Thank you for joining and being a part of today's session. We'll be back again tomorrow and on Friday as we wrap up this year's presentations for the Pflugerville Seniors Conference. We hope you have a wonderful day. Go out and walk. Go eat a wonderful salad, and then have your glass of wine tonight at 5 o'clock. We hope you have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Be well.